Welcome back to Devil's Diary TV. Let the story begin. Imagine, if you will, a night as black as pitch, the moon a thin, sickly sliver barely shedding light on the desolate farmland. In the obsidian abyss of night, Halloween's eerie silence is punctuated only by the distant hoot of an owl, the rustling of dried leaves, and the whispering wind that carries a foreboding chill. I am Carl, a simple farmer, but tonight, my tale is of the extraordinary, the terrifying. Tonight I recount the awakening of the Pumpkin King. From the cold, unforgiving ground, a groan echoes, a sound not of this world. It's the ancient heartbeat of the land, a rhythm disturbed. The earth shivers, then splits, and from this earthly womb the Pumpkin King is birthed. He is a grotesque monstrosity, a figure of gnarled vines and twisted pumpkin flesh. His eyes, two burning embers in the hollowed-out sockets, light up the darkness with a malevolent glow. But he is not alone. No, he is the general of an unhallowed army, an army of sentient pumpkins, each one a twisted reflection of the king himself. They rise one by one from the soil that once nourished them, their hollow eyes glowing with an unnatural light. Their faces are carved into grotesque expressions, a mockery of the joyous lanterns of Halloween. The air turns cold, a deathly chill that seeps into your bones, and the scent of decay fills the air. The rustling of leaves under the army's slow advance is like the whispering of the damned, a sound that would make the bravest of men quiver in fear. The world seems to hold its breath, the silence heavy with the anticipation of the horror to come. Tonight the Pumpkin King and his army have awoken, not for glory, not for conquest, but for revenge. A revenge centuries in the making, against the townsfolk who wronged them, their wrath as relentless as the grave. And in this unholy darkness, from the very earth itself, the Pumpkin King and his army rose, their only purpose, revenge. There I stood, frozen in fear, as the Pumpkin King towered over me, his hollow eyes burning with an unnatural fire. The air around me was thick with an eerie chill, the silence of the night punctured only by the rustling of leaves under the monarch's ghastly subjects, an army of sentient pumpkins. My heart pounded in my chest like a wild drum. I could feel the cold sweat trickling down my spine. My voice trembled as I mustered the courage to speak. What are you?" I asked. My words barely a whisper in the chilling October wind. His response was a deep, resonating voice that seemed to come from the very earth beneath us. "I am the Pumpkin King," he declared, his burning gaze never leaving mine. "Wronged by the townsfolk, scorned and forgotten, I rise from the grave to claim what is rightfully mine." A sense of dread washed over me. "The townsfolk," he said. Could he mean us? I swallowed hard, pushing down the lump forming in my throat. "What do you want?" I asked, the desperation clear in my voice. His sinister smile widened, the glow from his eyes intensifying. "Revenge," he whispered, the word hanging in the air like a guillotine. "A reckoning for the centuries of disrespect, a balance for the scales of justice." The moon hid behind the clouds as if afraid to witness what was to come. The wind howled, echoing the Pumpkin King's promise of retribution. His army of pumpkins rustled ominously, their grotesque faces twisted in anticipation. His laughter rang out, a bone-chilling sound that seemed to penetrate my very soul. "Prepare, Carl," he warned, his voice a menacing growl. "For the night of the Pumpkin King is upon us." With that, he vanished into the darkness, leaving me alone in the desolate field. The echoes of his laughter still hung in the air, a chilling reminder of the horror that was to come. His laughter echoed in the cold night, a promise of the terror that was about to be unleashed. The Pumpkin King was not a patient entity. His revenge was swift, brutal, and without mercy. Imagine the once peaceful town now plunged into a nightmarish frenzy. As the sun set, the Pumpkin King rose, an ominous figure with an army of sentient pumpkins at his command. Driven by the centuries-old grudge, the king and his army descended upon the town. The once lively marketplace was now a battlefield, echoing with the terror-stricken screams of townsfolk. The pumpkins, far from the benign fruits they once were, seemed to come alive with a menacing aura. They rolled and bounced, their carved faces glowing eerily in the moonlight, leaving trails of chaos and destruction in their wake. As the Pumpkin King watched his revenge unfold, he reveled in the fear he instilled. The once-wronged farmer was now a terrifying force of retribution. His laughter, a bone-chilling sound, echoed through the night, adding to the cacophony of terror. In the midst of this chaos, we find Carl, the storytelling farmer. The horror etched on his face mirrored the terror that had gripped the town. He was not just a spectator to the Pumpkin King's revenge, but also a narrator, weaving this tale of terror for the generations to come. He watched, heart pounding in his chest, as the Pumpkin King enacted his vengeance, his expressions a mix of fear and awe. As the night wore on, the once bustling town was transformed into a ghostly spectacle. Homes lay broken, their inhabitants fleeing in terror. The once vibrant fields were now a graveyard of smashed pumpkins, a stark testament to the king's wrath. As the dawn broke, the Pumpkin King and his army disappeared, leaving behind a town shrouded in fear and disbelief. The town was left in ruins, a chilling reminder of the Pumpkin King's wrath. The once scorned farmer had his revenge, leaving behind a tale so terrifying it would be remembered for generations. The tale of the Pumpkin King's revenge. When dawn finally broke, it revealed a scene of utter devastation. The once bustling town was now a ghost of its former self, a chilling testament to the wrath of the Pumpkin King. Streets that once echoed with laughter and life were now silent, save for the mournful cawing of crows and the rustle of fallen leaves. The once vibrant market square lay in ruin. The stalls that once overflowed with the bounty of harvest now stood desolate and abandoned. The jovial cries of the vendors replaced by an eerie silence, their goods left to rot under the cold gaze of the morning sun. The town's once grand church, a beacon of hope and faith, stood desecrated, its once pristine walls marred by the grotesque visage of the Pumpkin King. The townsfolk, once a lively community, were now shadows of their former selves. Their eyes, once full of life, were now hollow, haunted by the horrors of the night. The laughter of children was replaced by hushed whispers and fearful glances. The night of terror had changed them, marked them, left an indelible scar on their souls. As I, Carl, the old farmer, surveyed the aftermath, a heavy sense of guilt weighed down on me. My hands, once used to nurture life, had set the stage for this night of dread. The fear that gripped the town was a mirror of my own, a fear that the Pumpkin King would rise again, a fear of the horrors that another Halloween night could bring. The Pumpkin King had had his revenge, leaving behind a town forever haunted by a Halloween they would never forget. The echoes of that nightmarish night continue to reverberate through the town, a chilling reminder of the power of vengeance and the price of wrongs unrighted. As I stand amidst the ruins of what was once my home, I am left with a haunting question. Can we ever escape the sins of our past, or are we doomed to live in the shadow of our mistakes? For more horror stories from the Devil's Diary TV, click here to watch now. Like, comment, and subscribe before it's too late for you too.